Well, we ain't had nothing but problems today.
They got a dryer here now. They come out and spend a day and she did a major mess. I bet she's staying within a half a point all day long.
Huh.
Or it has for 2 days now anyway, so I didn't hear about today.
I seen that truck here the other day. I went by like a millwright truck.
That's Chad. Chad was out there with them all day and I think they left at 8 o'clock that night. Finally, they had her ticking within a half a point on automatic all day long.
I'm not overly impressed with ours yet.
Yeah.
We're fighting. I mean, I think it's a good dryer, but we're fighting to get more short one. I mean, we're about within a point.
Like I said, so far so good. But Jesus. So did he make some copies of the new budget with him putting the line on his thing? I would assume he would have. Hey, you ready to start then, Larry?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we'll call the township board in order at 5:33. First thing on the agenda is approved last meeting's minutes.
Did you bring any copies of the minutes for the audience or not? Anybody want a copy of the minutes?
So there was two changes Tim pointed out. I had they, the instead of they, and then but instead of put. So we got those two changes on there.
Put instead of.
Right. Put instead of. Anything else?
No, but
No.
if the crowd wants to look the minutes over and they were at the last meeting, they are able to add anything.
Yeah.
As long as they were at the last meeting and we can determine it was said.
You gave me.
Guys got the email from George Hill there on the questions I asked.
Everybody look at it? Anybody got anything to add?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes with the two changes in the grammar.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Going to discuss the budget. Anybody want a copy of it? Larry, you got copies of the budget? Everybody got their copy? Okay, we'll wait.
This is here, this is what the state calls budget form number 4. And this has the totals of all the different funds that we have and the amounts of money that the board agreed upon at our last meeting. And none of these figures can be changed. Now, what I can change is on that budget form you got there, any of these line items, they can be moved around as long as it doesn't change the total of what each fund is.
I don't think that's what that email said.
Well, the total amount can't be changed. We
The
can,
total, but you can change as long as that end amount
it's the same, yes,
or less.
or less. Right, did you read that too from George, that we can change anything around, as long as the end number is the same. We can change some funds, as long as the end is the same. Comes up with the same total amount.
It was right on the second page.
They don't. $200.
I didn't. I just thought you might have.
Gene, you got,
I've already got the thing.
you got some.
I've got one. I
Yeah,
don't know if
yeah.
they have any.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
At least I think I got one. No, I don't. Got an extra there? I got some others here.
There you go, there's an extra. Okay.
All right, if it was a typo, I just wanted to let you know that, that's all.
Good to proceed with the budget. Okay. Everybody got a copy that wants one? Okay. And we got any discussion?
We ready to start discussing
Yep,
the budget?
we're ready to start discussing.
Before we discuss the budget, I had questions on the budget. I emailed George Hilton with the Department of Local Government Finance. And I want to read these to you so you understand what we are allowed to do tonight. My first question was, is the board allowed to change the lines Larry put in for the fire budget? Some of the lines don't make sense because we don't have a contract with the town. Example, fire hydrant rental. The township has tankers to haul their water. We don't have fire hydrants. And his reply was, yes, the township board is permitted to change the budget for any fund at the line item level, as long as the total for that fund does not exceed what was advertised on Form 3. So we can have it lower or the same, but we can't exceed what was advertised. My second question was, are any amounts able to be changed as long as they are lowered? And his reply was, amounts listed on Form 1 are allowed to be increased, reduced, or removed as long as the total for the fund does not exceed what was advertised. My third question, are categories are category total amounts able to be changed? Example, fire, general, etc. If so, are they required to be lowered or can they be raised as long as the total amount of the budget that is advertised is not exceeded? Amounts listed on Form 1 are allowed, and that's what this budget form we just passed out is. The amounts listed on Form 1 are allowed to be increased, reduced, or removed as long as the total for the fund does not exceed what was advertised. And my fourth question, the $10,042 that is projected to be put into the township fire category that is not property tax, is that a mandated requirement or is that an elective? And he replied, I assume the question is regarding the township having a line item in the general fund for fire expense. This line item, in theory, is being paid for by local income tax certified shares. In 2023, the State Board of Accounts mandated that all units, especially townships, place 100% of their local income tax certified shares in the general fund. As part of that directive, the Board of Accounts has indicated that they would not take exception to a township showing fire expense in the general fund if the township has determined that a portion of their local income tax certified shares was needed to complete the funding for the fire department. As stated, this is a decision of the township, not the DLGF. So that's a little bit of what we are allowed to do tonight. I know Larry mentioned that we could not change these amounts, and basically we cannot raise the total what we advertise. We can lower it, we can change it around from different categories, whatever we feel.
But the fund totals have to stay the same? I understand that the total has to stay the same, but do the fund total?
No, the way I read that, no. It could not, the fund total could not exceed what was, in other words, if we had published 125,000 in that fund, we could not spend 130 in it,
But we could lower it.
but we could lower it.
We could lower it, send it somewhere else.
I wanted to read that to help you understand what we go through and what is permitted and what is not.
All right, has anybody got any questions on like the general fund? The first one. You all right how it is? Tim, you good how the general fund is?
I don't have anything on the general fund right now.
Okay.
Depending on how it goes on the other parts, I might want to come back to it.
Okay. Township assistance. Anything on the township assistance fund?
No, I don't have anything on township assistance.
You did, AJ? Okay, now the fire and EMS fund.
Okay, the fire and the EMS. The last meeting, we wanted it split up by lines. Larry refused at that meeting to split it up by lines. I don't know what his deal was on that, but the three board members all wanted it split up by lines. Well, Larry split it up by lines after the meeting and mailed us out, basically took the township's, the fire department budget and split it in half and made lines to match their budget. Well, we have no contract with the fire department. So this week I had an individual contact me and he said, you know, I live in the township. I'm a past firefighter. I have the credentials to be a fire chief. And I've been looking into this. And I listened to what he had to say. And he's done a lot of research on it. And I think it makes pretty good sense after what we went through Monday night. We were told that we needed to find a place for our equipment come December 31st. So I have restructured the fire budget for us if we decide to form our own fire department. And that's what,
Go ahead, Mark.
What did he say?
What did who say?
You're taking advice from somebody else.
we're gonna discuss his credentials and that when we go through the fire budget. I wanted to introduce this before we went through the budget so you would understand where we're coming from. So we'll introduce him when we discuss the fire budget and his credentials, and he can give you his ideas and go from there. I've got 3 copies of what I propose. One for Larry, AJ, and Dave, so we can follow along. And I've got 12 copies up here of the budget with what my proposal is. I have the numbers wrote over here and the different categories. And I changed the categories up from what Larry had because since we don't have a fire contract, they don't make sense. So there's 12 copies here, if anybody wants one.
This is based on the fire trucks being stored at your place?
No.
Nope.
Where will the fire trucks be stored?
We'll go over
We'll
that
get-
in the fire
we'll get-
agreement.
We'll go over that.
We're going over the budget now.
Yeah, this is the budget.
The same thing where it's at. On the second page, yeah.
Well, my last page of my the budget, that's okay. Wasn't anything on it but CUNY fire. Everybody got a copy then, or? Did Gene go to make more copies, or where are we at on this?
I already got one. Thank you.
Everybody got a copy then that wants one? Okay, let's start through this. First lines is uniforms, 0. Second line is salaries and wages, $5,000. Basically, that is probably for the chief and whatever his officers require. Third line, volunteer fire compensation, $30,000. Being a first year startup, they're going to have to buy some clothing and some supplies. And so we got 30,000 for that. FICA, we left at 2411, and basically I think we only have to pay FICA on the wages, and that's kind of a shot in the dark for me, but we can move stuff between lines later on. Turnout gear, I put $8,000 in there. There was 7. Turnout gear's up to around $4,000 a set, so that gets us 2 sets. Training, I increased that to 700 from 100 because we're going to have some newer guys and it's going to take more to train them. Medical expenses, I put $100, and basically I think that's for like Band-Aids and that to have in the firehouse in case somebody gets hurt.
You've already made a decision, we got a new fire department going.
A new chief, sounds like.
I'm
We got a
talking
new
about,
fire department.
We're working on the
Well,
budget. We
we're
will
working-
discuss it in the contract. We're going
When-
over the budget. We are having
Yeah.
to change the line items in the budget. Go ahead, Tim. Go on.
okay, so we had $100 on medical expenses. Office supplies, $1,000. Fuel, I have 4,000. They had 8,000. We spent $3,200 for diesel fuel in 2023, the last full year. We're going to have one less truck. We aren't going to be buying diesel fuel for the county-owned rescue.
Oh, we really have 2, because I thought we paid for the town's diesel too, didn't we? I thought we paid all the diesel.
Yeah. Training supplies, $200. Postage, $55. Telephone and internet, I raised that to 2,000 because it's about $150 for an internet service. They have to have good internet service, I think, for a fire station. So I put it at 2,000 to make sure it was covered. We can, like I say, if we have too much in one and not enough in another, we can move it around. Workman's comp, I raised it to 600. They had 300 when he was proposing we go in with the town. A lot of workman comp policies have a minimum they'll bill. So most likely it's going to be a $600 minimum. So I put that in there. Insurance and liability, 400, or 4,000, I mean. Insurance on property, we'll probably have a rented firehouse, so we're gonna have to have insurance on the firehouse. So I raised that from 1,500 to 3,000. Well, like I say, we can move it around. Insurance and disability, we have to have disability insurance for our firefighters. I put that at 3,000. Insurance vehicles, I got that at 5,000. Electric, we're gonna be buying the electric for our firehouse. I put that at 2,000. Gas and heat, we're gonna have to heat it. I got that at 2,000. Professional fees, $3,000. That I crossed out water and put professional fees in there because we are going to have legal advice on forming bylaws and different things of setting this up. Repairs and maintenance, 3,500. Repairs and maintenance on equipment, I put it $2,000. We just had all the truck service. We won't have any repairs and buildings on grounds because we aren't going to own any grounds for a while. Repairs and maintenance, other knick-knack stuff, $1,000. I put in here contracted services, $7,000. We are most likely going to have to work with a couple local fire departments, at least one. And 7,000 is not much money, but like I say, we can move it around. We want some money in there if we have to contract with somebody to help us out for a year or two. Equipment purchases, I raised that to 25,000. With a startup, we're going to have a lot of little things we're going to have to buy to. I'm not sure how many pagers we have in that. Prevention and education, $250. I left that there. Dues and subscriptions, I don't know if there's a firehouse magazine they get or whatever. I left that at 1,000. And I come up with a total of $114,916. Now, the last meeting, we were led to believe that our max levy was 115,000. Talked to George and it's 105,000. It's not 115.
Remember the last meeting, I wasn't at the last meeting, the one before that.
That's the one I'm talking about, the one before.
Talking about the one before that. You mentioned two, we start out with 105, but we had in all the little knicks-knacks, it ends up 100. There's 100.
Right, but you led us to believe that max levy was 115
I
that
thought
night.
I clarified that with you, because 105 plus all the little incidentals that you talked about, that's what.
And that, so, and the incidentals he's talking about, George sent to me, and basically, it's not any money that is going through the general. It's little pieces. One of them is lit money from the levy freeze. And in 2025, that's going to be 4569. And that he was putting that right into the fire. It didn't have to go through the general, so it didn't belong to all the people. Financial institution tax, $14. That was going right into fire. He didn't have to go through the general. Vehicle, aircraft, and excise tax distribution, $5,429. That didn't have to go through the general. And commercial vehicle excise tax distribution, $30, which give us a total of $10,042 of them little pieces that we could add to that $105,846 that the max levy allowed us.
So I had a question, Tim. Have you talked to Huntington Township over in Huntington County?
No.
You know, it took them 2 years to start their fire department after they split from the town of Huntington.
We're discussing the budget.
We're discussing the budget. We'll discuss, now,
This has to do with
okay,
it.
what do you want to change on this budget then?
Nothing.
Okay, that's what we're discussing. We'll discuss that when we get to the fire contract.
Fire contract.
No, we're talking about the budget. This has to do with the budget.
Well, okay, what do you want to change?
What do you want to
Nothing, just
change?
leave it as is, and let's move forward with the budget. Leave the budget as is. Let's
As
not
I
do lines.
proposed or as it was?
No, as it was, as what we talked about the last meeting, not this bullshit that you're doing now. You're a fucking moron.
No.
You need to resign, Tim. You're not doing anything about hurting this community. I am sick and tired of you two.
Enough.
I am sick and tired of you two.
Enough, AJ. We are going over the budget. Enough. We're going over the budget. We're going over the budget.
Hey,
We are going over the budget. Enough. AJ, we're going over the budget. Do you want to change anything on
The
this
budget
that
needs to
we're
stay as
discussing?
what we talked about last
We are
meeting.
discussing this. Do you want to change anything?
No,
to
it
this
needs to
proposed?
stay as it was talked about last week, the last time we met. Nothing needs to change.
We didn't talk about this because we were refused to talk about this because Larry wouldn't put it in there. So
Why
we're
do you-
discussing it now.
This should have been talked about years ago.
Exactly right. So
Why
we're
haven't you guys
discussing it
talked
now.
about it years ago?
Well, we're
Not at
discussing it
last
now,
minute.
AJ. We're discussing it now.
No, this is total bullshit, you know, guys. You're hurting nobody but the community. You're not,
This-
all you're thinking
this-
about is your damn
no.
selves.
AJ,
Yes,
we're
you are.
discussing the budget.
This is not doing with the budget. I'm tired of your bullshitting because your taxes are gonna go up. Everybody's taxes are gonna go up. You know what?
AJ?
So is insurance.
AJ,
It's gonna take us a couple of years to get somebody trained.
You're not gonna get anybody to work for you, Tim. That's the next issue. You're not gonna get any damn volunteers.
we're discussing the budget. We will discuss this in
Which budget?
the
are you
fire
discussing?
contract.
The previous one or this bullshit one that Tim came up with?
This is not, he come out, we were not allowed to discuss this the last time because Larry would not put this in a line item like we wanted. So we're discussing this now. We are discussing this now because this is the first time we were able to discuss this as a board. No, this is our meeting. No, this is our meeting. This is the budget we are
This is
discussing.
the public's meeting, not your meeting.
The
public is speaking, David.
This is the budget we're discussing.
Which budget are you talking about? The one that's
We're
already
discussing-
proposed or the one that
There, there,
passed out?
the budget that was proposed had to come with Larry putting in the line items for the fire department. We are discussing them right now because we didn't get them at the last meeting because he refused to put them in. So we're discussing it. What Larry proposed is what he proposed. We have a right, did you not hear? We have a right to change it to what we want. And it is a board vote. So we will discuss the fire stuff when we get to the fire contract.
All right, get to it.
Okay, so, you got anything you want to change?
Leave it as it was presented last time.
No,
I go with the 114.
The public says, leave it as it was.
I
You
say
gotta
we,
listen, you gotta listen to the
I
public.
say-
This is a
I-
board vote.
No,
I-
it's this is for the public.
I say we pass the budget Tim proposed.
Bullshit.
Oh, that's great.
All in favor?
You guys smoke.
All in
You
favor?
guys need to resign.
All in favor?
You have no, you don't think about anybody. but
All in
yourself.
favor?
This is the first time I've seen this. I'm a trustee and I have a right to take a look at this budget and make sure it's gonna work. There's a lot of holes in what you're presenting here. This should have been presented, if you wanted to do this, it should have been presented about a year
We're-
ago.
Larry, this,
Larry, this is for 2025. You do a budget every year.
Yes.
This is for next year.
We've got the budget that you guys approved at our last meeting.
but it didn't have your line items in it, Larry. It did not have your line items in it.
About this.
It did not have your line items in
Why
it,
did
Larry.
you create line items? You knew what the Aussian's budget was. Why did you
It
go off
did not
that?
have the line items in it.
But why didn't you go off Aussian's budget and do this months ago? Talk about it. Who is your guy?
I
Who
made
is
a
your guy
motion.
you're talking to? I'm gonna talk to this guy.
I made a motion. Do you want to change it or don't?
I'll
Can't make a motion without
Proposing for your new fire station.
I've got to be able to review this.
Did you give us a chance to review it?
Not this, you had this for a month.
No, we have not. We have not had a year. You refused at the last meeting. When was our last meeting, Larry?
I wasn't.
When, the meeting before, when was it? How long ago was that you refused to put these line items in there for?
I didn't refuse.
Yes,
because I
you
put
did
in the line
refuse.
Items that it took to match 50% of the fireman's budget. That's my directive at that time. This would never, ever be discussed.
And let me.
It's the proposed, the money is staying the same, is it not? It's going down, so we got money left over for
I don't think
something.
you've got enough money in your budget to
You
cover
don't.
what you're wanting to do.
You don't have enough money in the budget. You go down you don't have you won't have enough money. When's the last time you looked at rent on buildings in this county? And where in the county are you gonna rent a building to store fire trucks and have a fire department? Where are you gonna find these
What do you
people?
want
Where are
to
you
do?
gonna do this?
That's gonna be discussed when we discuss the.
But you need the budget.
You're gonna approve your budget for your station.
Do you want to or do you not?
This is what I approve.
We need to have a continuance meeting and leave.
No, we can't, we're out of
I
time.
need to have.
You do it this way. This is exactly what you want to do.
We're out of time, so we're gonna slide this in.
No, that's not,
Yes, it is.
no, it's not, AJ. We have asked and asked for this. We have asked and
Why
asked for
are
a
you
sit
asking
down.
not just do this?
That's what we're doing, are we
Yeah,
not?
at the last minute and not months and
Whose
years ago.
responsibility is it? Whose responsibility is it? Whose responsibility is it?
It's the township boards. Why haven't
No,
we done shit?
it's his responsibility. And
Stop blaming Larry. Larry's not the only person sitting here,
Has
David.
he presented us with any of this?
Have you,
Has he presented us with anything else besides
Have you
signing what the town tells us we gotta sign? Or he told us.
why do you
we gotta
guys
sign?
hate the town so much? Why do you hate
Wait,
the town
it's
so
not
much?
hating the town.
Yes, it is. It's
You-
hating the people of the town of Ogden.
What have we been presented on this board? What have we been presented? What have we been presented other than what the town?
Why
has
haven't you
proposed?
presented
What?
anything else?
We are presenting it.
Now-
It was
Not
up to
much
him.
ago.
We have to let the process go through.
Settle down. We're gonna control this meeting. We're not going through this like this.
Yes, we are.
I'm not gonna go through all this hollering.
I don't give a fuck at this point anymore, Tim. I'm sick and tired of your little kid games you're playing.
I'm not.
This is everybody's livelihood.
That's,
It's
AJ,
not livelihood, it's loss.
this,
You're right. It's
Exactly.
Exactly.
hey,
Now,
hey,
can I get a minute to talk?
Sure.
You guys keep yelling over me. Just give me a minute.
It's a public meeting, Tim. You have a right.
You don't have a right to yell over me.
I'm not yelling at you.
You don't have a right to talk over me.
just speak, speak, speak.
Monday night, we went to the town meeting and the town said, I said, we are working with our attorney to come up with a proposal. And the town president blew up and said, I'm turning this into a circus. Well, fire protection is not a circus. We were working with our township attorney to come up with a proposal, and they said, we're not listening to any proposal. This is what you're gonna sign or figure out somewhere to put your fire trucks come December 31st. And that's all we were presented with. We tried and tried and tried to work with them.
Hold on, go ahead.
The proposal that you had at the meeting, on Monday's meeting, was that a proposal that you guys?
No, I said we were working with the township attorney to come up. At the last meeting, I made a motion that we sit down in executive session, the three of us, and work with the township attorney to come up with a proposal. Well, the township attorney emailed all three of us and said that does not qualify for an executive session. But he said, I can meet with each one of you separately and put your ideas together and come up with a proposal. And that's what we were in the process of doing. And they said, nope, this is the fire agreement and that is it. You're turning this into a circus. And it come December 31st, you find some place to put your fire trucks.
Right, but you acted like you had a proposal right then in your hand.
No, I said we were working with the
I thought
town.
you said, don't you want to see our proposal? And you said, yeah.
Can't we present a proposal to you? Not that night. We had to come up with it with working with the attorney. But they didn't want any of that. They give us notice April that they were going to terminate our fire insurance or our fire protection. And we had requested meetings with the town board all the way up, and they would not meet with us. They come right up.
Not over the contract, not over the contract. They never agreed to a meeting of the contract. They slipped it in on the budget twice on us, but they didn't agree to sit down and discuss the contract with us. They would never agree to sit down and discuss this contract
You
with
guys
us.
sat down there and talked to them, and you changed the 2 items on the contract.
Yeah,
And then they approved the
And-
contract.
and we changed the 2 items.
Correct. So you
And
discussed the budget,
they
you
said,
discussed the contract.
we have-
now,
This was the contract.
The majority of this board has stated, we will not write a check to the town of Ossian for fire protection.
that night.
And we have not been had Art say so till here lately to speak about that. And he has not offered us anything different than to sign this with you guys with us paying half of the budget, writing you a check without getting any say so whatsoever at all. We've been told that. We've been told we will not get one lick of say so in it.
Okay, so, but you guys did discuss the contract with the town.
No, we did not. We discussed it, but we discussed that, but we never have agreed to, and nobody wanted to sit down with us.
We discussed the contract.
We discussed,
And now no. We discussed the contract.
Yes, they did.
Let me talk. You guys
Let him
keep
finish.
talking over me.
I was talking.
Cut it out now. Let me finish. We changed 2 things in the contract. And we told them what we didn't agree with. We didn't agree. We offered to write them a check for half of their labor. And we said we would keep buying equipment and we wanted to bill directly from the vendor. And they said, nope, you're going to write us a check for all of it and we'll pay the bills and we'll send you a receipt. And we said, no, we want a check right from the vendor so we know what we own, we know where we're at. And for situations like this where there might be a termination, we know what we own. And that's why we know what we own, because it's been done this way in the past, and it was done that way for this reason. And so we provided them a way for them to get their money that they wanted. We provided them a way, but they would not agree to the way we wanted it accounted for, that we got our receipt.
they would not.
Number 1 is Southwest Fire District paid Poe to cover a certain portion of their area. Poe never asked for, or Southwest never asked for what they spent the money for.
Well, they paid
Number
for-
2, huh?
They paid for a service.
They paid for the service. Number 2 is Zanesville, which is in Wells County, pays Southwest to cover Zanesville. Zanesville doesn't ask for an itemized description.
But we are
They
responsible
pay for
for,
a service. We are paying for a service.
So,
Plain and simple, we're paying for a service.
Regardless, okay, hold on a second. You said that so we knew what we
Hold on,
owned.
Dan, let him
The way-
speak.
The way I
Yep,
understand it is that's operating budget. And they even said, because I've been to almost all these meetings, operating budget,
Yes.
the only things that they were gonna buy was gear. Is that not true? So
No.
we still, that's not true?
no.
What else were they gonna buy?
With,
besides gear?
with our money, we own trucks. We bought tires for trucks. We bought rims last year for trucks. We change oil in our trucks. We buy diesel fuel.
That's still operating.
But
still operating
that's
budget.
what-
You don't own those.
Hold on. We have no contract or nothing with it. So it doesn't, we're discussing the budget. We can discuss that in the contract ordeal, but I mean, we got to get through this budget ordeal.
I just think it's really, really shaky, honestly, that we just slid this in. You said right there, we're out of time.
We had no choice. It is up to the trustee to do this, and he has presented us with nothing.
I bet you guys have been working
We
on this
have-
for months.
We have,
You've been working on
have,
this, you've been working on this longer than that. No,
this, no,
no, you guys have been working on this lot
this is-
longer.
no,
Yes, you have.
nope.
The guy just contacted me
Yes,
this week,
it's not,
AJ.
it's,
No, you've been working on this
no,
long time, Tim.
nope,
Ever
nope,
since
nope,
those goddamn radios.
Nope.
You've been working on it since then. You've
Nope.
been pissed off about that. You have a personal
no,
vendetta against
no,
it.
AJ.
David, you shut
enough.
up, I'm talking.
AJ, enough.
I'm talking.
I'm the president.
I don't give a
Enough.
fuck.
You do
You
not
need-
go
Stop.
and, we are not.
No,
attacking
I'm
each other.
talking.
We are
you
not,
because-
has either one of us attacked you, we are not attacking. Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone,
Yes, thank you.
this is all childish.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, what are we gonna do?
I'm good with the numbers I submitted.
Vote
Okay.
on this because I have.
I make a motion, we approve these numbers I presented, $114,916 for fire and EMS on the line items.
I second
You can't do that. I haven't
All in
had a chance
favor?
to review it.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
AJ,
All right.
make sure that trustee has put down that this is not legal, what they're doing, because we have had no time to discuss. And
Okay.
what I'm
Now-
suggesting is that we
Now.
have a continuous
service.
meeting. AJ, a
The what?
continuous meeting, October 22nd. That'll give me time to review this and still get it turned in by
What,
October 31st. when the
what do you
budget's
got? Debt
gotta be
service
turned
is
in.
what?
Debt services, 50,656, our payment that we have.
Oh, okay. Anything else on the budget then?
Yeah, we got that last page,
Yep.
the King Fire,
King Fire.
and that was zero, because we're still paying on the fire engine.
Yeah, okay.
So that gives us a total, we gotta come up with a total here.
I have never seen such underhanded stuff trying to be shoved down the public's throat at the last minute. David and
Go,
Peter,
go.
you both should
You got
resign.
it.
They should.
Yes.
They need to both resign.
This game you're playing with this.
This ain't no game.
Hey, hey,
Fire
Tim,
department
get,
is
get,
not gonna
go,
work.
go.
Huntington County, Huntington Township just got done splitting from Huntington County. And I've talked to people and it's an absolute disaster over there now with having two different fire
I
departments.
can't read the line on the township
If you
assistant.
don't think your insurance rates are gonna go up doing your own fire department, you got a mistake coming.
Hey Larry, something that's left, the results are just better to show the results.
Township
Do that, they gotta
assistant
do it.
is
I don't,
23.
mine didn't print the total of that.
23, adopted was 23,100.
23,100,
Yeah.
okay. And then 114,916. And then, what was the fire debt down there?
50,000,
Well, we gotta have the exact number.
650,
What is it?
50,650.
And, so that comes up to 267.
Excuse me, 656.
What that?
Yeah, 50,656.
Okay, I gotta add another $6. 267, 420. What'd we advertise? Last page.
We would have, 2024.
That can't be right.
Hold on. No, that's 2025.
I got a bad number in there on this here. Uh,
Missing one page. Nope, it'd be this number there.
276, 623 was the advertised. Okay, 276, 623 was the advertised, and my figures come up 267, 420. What'd you get, Larry? Did you add them up?
I'm not adding them up because the bonus number is fine.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the budget, 267,420. It'd be can you read that on the general? Seven, 78,
740.
78,740 on the general, 23,100 on the township assistance, $114,916 on fire and EMS, 50,656 on fire truck, principal, fire debt, and 0 on Cume Fire.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay. Now.
I would like to put on record that I am protesting until we have an October 22nd meeting. So I have a chance to review these numbers.
On to the fire
We're going to
contract.
have a continuous meeting October 22nd. Can you guys make it?
On to the fire contract.
I've got a question, David.
I have to look.
I will schedule one for October 22nd.
What's the date today?
17.
Date 17.
You got 10 days to advertise it before you have an
Have a
adoption.
continuous meeting, I don't have to advertise it 10 days. That's why I'm asking AJ. This meeting is not in. This is going to be continued until October 22nd. And I only need to post it 48 hours.
I've got it down. I've got it down that we're gonna have a continuous meeting on October 22nd.
5:30 here.
What day of the week is that?
All right, we're gonna discuss, we done then? You ready? to start
Yeah,
the fire?
we got a adopted amount. This is the adopted amount.
I got it written.
267,420.
Okay.
So what are you going to continue at this meeting? We've adopted this amount.
I haven't had, I just saw this.
Well, you can look at it, but we have adopted this.
It's all right.
I'm the trustee, I'm the one responsible for these numbers.
We are the
You
one
need to prove to me
responsible.
that you can form a fire department in 2.5 months.
We'll discuss fire contract.
Okay. The fire contract, Larry has pushed what the town has wanted the whole time. We asked him to work with us and come up with our contract, and he wouldn't do it. And that's why we tried to have an executive session meeting with our attorney and come up with it, like I said earlier. And the attorney said that does not qualify for executive session. But he said, I can meet with each one of you individually. Well, I did go in and meet with him and give him my ideas. And then we had the meeting at the town hall on Monday night, the joint meeting. And that's where I mentioned that we were coming up with a proposal for him. The other guys had to meet with him yet. And they said they were not going to consider any proposal. I was turning that into a circus and find where you're going to put your fire trucks December 31st. And that's just the way it went. Wouldn't listen, wouldn't work with us. And we have tried to meet with the town board since April. It's in our minutes. We've requested to meet. No, they come right out and said, no, we aren't meeting with you. No, it's in our minutes, Larry.
Maybe in your minute, they tried to meet with you, maybe.
No, they now, Larry, you're the one that come back and said Josh Barkley said he doesn't want to meet with you. It's right in our minutes. You're the one that told us that he said that to you when you were the one that proposed we form a study committee, and you went and talked to them, and he came back and said, nope, doesn't want to meet with you.
What else have you proposed to us, Larry, over this? What else have you proposed to us? What else have you proposed to us? Well, what else have you proposed?
The fire agreement is written by the trustee and approved by the board. So Tim,
What else have you proposed to us?
if you're trying to write a fire agreement, you cannot do it.
What else have you proposed to us? Larry, what else have you
When the
proposed?
whole thing started is I wrote.
What else have you proposed?
I write the agreement. Then I turned it over to our.
Okay, I understand that.
Tom turned it over to their attorney, and then we let you guys look at it, and you made 2 changes on it. You had your opportunity to change it.
And we told you what we
Told
wanted.
them what we wanted.
And we
to
told
change
you
it.
what we wanted.
And they said, no, we are not changing it that way. We told them
We
that.
tried to work.
We provided
We worked with
a
them on
way.
that, but they would not change what we wanted to change on top of what they changed.
2 changes made to that agreement that you wanted made, and then you still refused to sign.
No, and we also said we will pay that money, but here's the way we will pay it. We said we would write you a check for half the labor to the town of Austin. You pay the firefighters, half your labor's paid. But the other part, we were going to get receipts directly from the vendor. And they said, nope, we aren't doing that. They had a way to get the money to cover their budget.
Go ahead, Dan.
So that seems to be a big sticking point about the receipts. So what is the difference if the receipt is a copy of the original, or the original, they keep the copy? Either way,
This
you get a receipt.
situation right here, like he said, they write them a check. If we have a slip of paper that says, here's, you paid for fire protection, and we get in a situation like this, we have some skin in the game this way. Otherwise, all we have to show is that receipt. And what do you think they care about that receipt?
Okay, but if you pay first response yourself, you get a receipt, correct? If Austin pays first response, you're still getting a receipt.
Right,
What's
but
the
then
difference?
when we buy turnout gear, we get a receipt right from the people that make that turnout gear. We've got a serial number on that turnout gear,
Yes.
and it is ours if we split. And we don't want to. Hey, I'll tell you,
Okay,
this board does not want to split, but we are not going to give them a.
Let me ask you a question, Dan. How much money has the township paid the town of Austin for fire protection? Do you know? Every year?
Zero. The town, the township?
No, that the township has paid the town.
Not very much.
I don't think anything of it.
No, $100 for the building rental. So what's the town, why is it such a, you guys are, the town is making it sound like it's an accounting nightmare. How's it an accounting nightmare when they've never They've never had to do our accounting. We are trying to accept our own fate and do our own accounting. What is wrong with the township doing their own accounting?
Exactly this is what's happening
What?
tonight.
What?
Exactly what's happening tonight is the reason
And-
why.
Okay,
But I wanna go back to the receipts.
Okay.
That's the big sticking point. You guys say that you want to have the receipts.
but
Yet
here's,
you don't get the receipts from who's your buyer for the turnout.
here's the
Whoever it
thing.
is, You're getting the same receipts, the same numbers. I wrote them down several times myself in the boots to the jackets.
So what's
I know
the
the
problem
numbers.
with them going on the way they have been?
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
just asking.
Benson Maker didn't have a problem with it. He stated it 2 meetings ago. He did not have a problem with the way it was. So I don't understand what the problem is.
No, I'm asking about the receipts. That's the sticking point. You guys-
Okay, but Benson Maker said he didn't have a problem with the receipts.
I know you guys do.
He didn't have a problem with giving us the receipt and we paying the receipt.
Yeah, but I don't think that has anything to do with it. It's to the town.
I know what I think.
There's
Exactly.
there's some stuff that has not been brought up about this fire agreement and why it has worked this way. This fire agreement was set up this way that we buy equipment, basically because of this max levy. This max levy, we could not raise the money in the years past, and we still cannot raise enough money to satisfy half that budget. And so we buy equipment, and that is outside of the max levy, not the turnout gear, but like the trucks and them things we buy is outside of the max levy. And the township has put a lot of money in trucks. When the town bought their engine for $350,000, the township bought their old engine for $150,000. So we laid out $150,000, they laid out $200,000. Now, Carolyn, we bought the rescue. I don't, that was before I was on here. Now, just a minute. How much was the rescue? Do you remember? We bought 100% of the rescue, and part of that, I think, I've looked back in years past, when we bought that rescue, was we paying $1,000 for the firehouse, and they agreed to lower it?
Oh, yeah.
It was $1,000, and they lowered it to $100 because
No, it's $100.
$100.
Now, yes, but it was $1 for several years.
But it was $1,000 before that, and they lowered it to $100 because we were gonna purchase a truck, I think. And to help us out with that, they lowered that. So then it come down to, we bought the latest engine for $425,000, and we paid 100% of that bill. And we're still paying. We got another payment on that yet. And when we mention these things we have bought, they don't want to figure that in there.
Well, they had to buy them also.
Yeah, but look at the amount of money they spent compared to us. They bought pickup trucks, gators, boats.
No.
One engine.
Okay, so back to the whole thing about the old engine, the township. The township couldn't afford a new engine. The town sold them theirs, and then they went out and bought a new one.
That could have been the
That's
case.
how it went down. Because the
Okay.
township couldn't afford it.
But it lowered the price of your new engine by $150,000. When we only had that,
That way. I mean,
how many years did we have that old engine? It wasn't very many.
it would have been, it was over 20 years.
But
It was 20 years old, but you only had.
yeah, but we
didn't
only
have
had
it.
about five
We
or
traded
six.
it, yeah.
5 or 6, I
I
think.
don't know, longer than that, but it was longer than that. Let's say 10.
Well, when we got rid of that, we got 30,000. So we dropped 120 for the years that we had that. And that's the way it runs with fire equipment, just like that rescue. When we got rid of that, we got $30,000. It's probably worth 60 or 70, but when entities like this go to buy that stuff, there's so many hoops that they got to jump through that they end up buying new, or they can't get it together to buy something used like that. So the only people that are interested in that equipment are private fire companies. And so you get pennies on the dollar when you get rid of that stuff. And that's
That's outside the operating budget, which is what all the disagreement's about, is the operating budget.
Well,
I mean-
not really,
The
Dan,
township
not
buys-
really, Dan,
Township buys
because
their trucks and the town buys their trucks.
not
Town
really,
buys their trucks.
not real. Well, it's not totally about the operating budget. It is about not having a voice. Whenever we bring up anything on that budget, just like the other night, when they presented the budget and it was fuel, and Ben had $16,000 for fuel. And I said, Ben, I look back and we buy the diesel for 5 of them trucks, and we spent $3,200 the last full year, 2023. And I said, what did you spend? You buy gas for 3 pickups. What did you spend? And he said, well, my budget was $4,000. Well, I went home, and you can look back on Gateway and look this up. He spent $2,400. So he had a total fuel bill and for the fire department between the diesel trucks and the gas trucks of $5,600, but he had a line item for $16,000. And when I question anything like that, it never gets changed. I'm always the bad guy. And
How did he answer that? He said that Larry gave you $10,000 as a budget.
Larry told him it's $10,000, but I told him the right number, but he never offered to change it. He never.
He didn't get us that information at the meeting. He said he couldn't provide it, and it took him 3 or 4 weeks to get us the information on what he spent on gas. I mean, he didn't. Go ahead. Go ahead.
When he was questioned about the 16,000, he said that he could spend it on other stuff.
Maintenance.
If we needed
Whatever.
other items, just
So-
like they were talking on there.
Yeah,
I guess, to me, I'm for everybody. Okay, I grew up having fire protection, went through all my life with different guys, and I'll be the first one to admit that I was naive. I took this fire department and the town and all the people that worked on it for granted. And I'm upset with myself. And you can see by the turnout, the different ones. I was only given a letter about 2 months ago by a neighbor. Said this was at the end of the year, you're not gonna have fire protection. That's the way the letter was. I'm not gonna go into a whole lot of detail, and I'm going, whoa. And I've admitted it today before. I was like, what are you guys doing? But then I started talking to more people and more people and more people. And just like anything else, there's 2 sides to every story. Okay? I'm not gonna sit here because I haven't been here for years, months, whatever. Just the last, I've tried to make everything since I got that letter. I have sat there when Tim tried to ask a question and a whole gobble of people jumped him. So he said, I'm leaving. He left. And that's come out that he's the bad guy before he left. And I had somebody that was there from the town of Ossian, and they said, that's not right. You can disagree all you want to disagree, but to act the same way that we acted tonight. We try to teach our children not to be mean, be bullies. And every meeting that I come to, there's all this bickering. You're not working together as a town. I brought up something at the meeting. I'm the one that brought up about the town paying Jefferson Township. Oh, no, we don't want to do that. It's been this way for years. Again, I mean, maybe it wasn't the right idea, but we were shut down. I listened to Larry, and I've known Larry all my life. We were neighbors. He's a good guy. But everything that I've seen him read and say, just like he said, the town won't change this. The town won't do this. The town won't do that. The other night at the meeting, I was there, and Tim's right. And maybe he didn't start when he was supposed to. I don't know. But I've heard AJ sit there and say, the past is past. We need to look to the future. But a couple of the meetings that I've sat at, one of the board members constantly brought up the fact that Jefferson Township didn't pay when they were supposed to, and they didn't pay as much as they were supposed to. There was no getting together on any of that. I don't know who wants to cover us, but I can't blame him for trying to go and find somebody if we were told we're gonna be without fire protection at the end of the year. All I'm saying is that in talking to different people, the town of Ossian can have one big old budget. Jefferson Township, I believe, needs to have some line items in there. Have to have it broken down. That was requested. AJ even requested that Larry get those line items together. He said he had presented the items and he wasn't putting it in the budget. Okay, so now everybody that lives in the country that's here is scared to death because we're not going to have fire protection. I'm thinking, if I got this story straight, that Jefferson Township has agreed to pay and give the town of Ossian half the money for the labor. The bills in the past, and I do accounting, the vendors don't give a hoot who that money comes from. They could get 10 checks for the same thing, send out 10 emails. Where I work, I get most of my things by email. I request where the email needs to go. The town of Ossian can have one, Jefferson Township can have one. That doesn't mean that Jefferson Township isn't going to pay the money now that the town doesn't want to give Jefferson the money. Okay, it means that they have an actual copy of what they're paying for. How many of you people get a bill or don't get a bill and just automatically send people money? And then sooner or later you get an itemized bill. I doubt that any of us that does good accounting really works on that basis. So I'm thinking that if I'm correct and the labor is paid half, if the town would just agree to go back and ask the vendors to send each of us a bill, town and Ossian, Jefferson Township would probably go through, and I stand to be corrected if I misunderstand anything. Then as the 2 monthly or yearly payments, whatever they are, that money would be paid to the Ossian town and life goes on.
Or the township could just pay the bills.
Or if the township wants to pay the half, I don't know, I can't address that issue. But if the township wants to send their half to the vendor, why not?
Pat?
Ben said he didn't care who paid it. I'm just saying that everybody on both sides needs to quit their bickering and work together. We have so many blessings in this town. And people are acting like a bunch of little kids. And I'm going to bring one other fact, and I probably should. But I was also at the meetings where the bypass was to go by Ossian. Farmers. We were up there defending our own property from a bypass around the town of Ossian, starting at the Ryota Road and going somewhere down by Donaghy's Orchard. I went to those meetings and I asked somebody, why isn't, and I'm not going to mention any, I said, well, where's the town people? I actually contacted people myself in these businesses saying, hey, there's a bypass proposal. You want people to go through your town and go buy your nice business or not? Well, yeah, we don't want them to avoid us. Those people showed up at those meetings. AJ, I stand to be corrected, but I would have thought that people from the town board would have been at that meeting saying, wait a minute, we don't want that bypass around our fine town. We want the people to travel through to stop at the antique shop or the other knick-knacky shops that's here, eat pizza, eat Mexican food. Now, one of those meetings that I was told did the town of Ossian stand up for this town with that bypass? Now, when I listen here, I see some of the same thing. I'm sorry. It's kind of like the town wants to make these decisions, and either you take it or leave. And again, I'm not saying that the people of Jefferson Township on the board are perfect. We all screw up and we make mistakes. But sitting in here and watching you use the language that you used, think about that. You're right, this is our town, this is our country. And I know for a fact, I don't know what Dave does, but I know he helps people farm. And I know Tim farms. My family farms. But yet, they're here on a monthly whatever basis for years for a lousy $800 listening to everybody moan and groan. Please, I realize this is a delicate situation, but everybody's got to give a little bit. Would you guys address the fact that with the line budget item, I mean, is that a possibility? And having a say, can we possibly, if the town gives a little bit?
The town has told us though they aren't. They give us an ultimatum, said this is it. And we tried to work. I mean, we tried to tell them that we were sitting down with our attorney and coming up with a proposal, and they said, no, they called it a circus. I said, this isn't.
The big thing here is that the people that have showed up sporadically at these meetings and have a right to be upset because they're scared.
Well,
But
and I don't like this. I don't like this. I would prefer staying with the town, but the town has given us no options.
What option do we have?
They gave us no
Larry
options.
He said not presented us with anything else. I
Larry
mean,
is supposed to be our liaison. He has said they won't change their mind.
Yeah, that's what we hear
Do
repeatedly.
we have time? I'm just bringing this up. I know we're getting short. Is there a legal time limit that he can go back and say, look, we want to put these line items in. We're willing to give us half. If you guys meet us halfway, Larry, are you willing to do that the next day or two? Talk to AJ, or no, sorry, with Josh.
The board has already approved at our last meeting before that, $122,093. So my whole budget is based on the fact that they, at that particular time, they approved.
But the question is, can the line items, can you get the board to put the line items in the way we want them and back off of their whatever and say, we will work with you, split the bills, like I said, the vendors don't care. I write checks all the time. It doesn't matter. I get my actual invoice emailed to me. I pay them. I take accounts receivable. I get checks from 3 different accounts for the same thing. It's a matter of entering it into my thing.
The thing is, we have tried to meet early, and they just can't. And we're coming down the end, and we've got to make a decision here.
We've sat up here waiting on him to give us something else.
And we've tried now.
We've got nothing. Yes, well, you gotta ask him.
People that are here.
We had a last ditch effort when we got our attorney involved and tried to come up with a proposal for him. And
We're not allowed to come up with an agreement. And I told you that, that's my job.
A proposal. He didn't say an agreement. He said a proposal.
I agree with what you were working on.
we were working on a proposal to the town.
What we explain the proposal.
What have you provided us, Larry?
Yeah.
What have you gave us?
Provided you with everything you asked.
No, Oh, yeah.
No, no. What, I mean, what other, besides what the town proposed, what have you put in front of us to say what else?
Here's what I think we need to do tonight. I need to introduce the guy that is concerned, a citizen. He come forward. He has the qualifications for a fire chief, and let him know who he is. We find out what he's thinking, and we got to have a plan come December
Yeah,
31st.
we gotta have something.
We got to
If
move
they
on.
want to sit down, we have to move on. I mean, we have to.
And
We have to.
I was just trying to
we,
fill in some of the blanks.
we really would want to work with the town, but the town is refused to work with us.
I think that's absolutely wrong.
The individual that has come forward is Justin Fryback. He's back here. And I like Justin to tell us his credentials and kind of what he's thinking. And I'm sure Justin, if we got something worked out, Justin would understand. And he's a concerned citizen. He's trying to give us an option. So Justin, you tell us a little bit about your credentials and.
So I was on Austin Fire for 9 years. The only reason I'm even considering this is because we were given an ultimatum. December 31st, get your stuff out. Well, I'm not gonna tolerate my neighbors not having fire coverage. So we have 3 trucks, we have gear. So I'm gonna do what I can do to get it done. I don't wanna see them split up, but neither one are moving. So we need something to work. Either the town of Austin's gotta listen to us, or we gotta do something different. But I'm not gonna wait till December to decide we gotta do something. I've talked to the surrounding fire departments. I have their support. They're willing to help with training, any extra gear. One even offered up a potential grass rig because they have a new one coming in that will be available for purchase or what have you. So we have options to work on stuff. I want Larry to continue to work with the town of Austin. I hope my time is wasted. I don't want to see him split up, but I'm not going to wait till December 25th to decide, well, we got to have something to do January 1 with all of our equipment. I'm not going to have neighbors and other people not have fire protection when I have the knowledge and the ability to do it. I've contacted people. I've had 5 people show interest in it. I've had other people contact people that haven't shown interest in it. Obviously, I can't do applications yet. I can't do anything because nothing's been set in stone. I'm getting interest to see if people are interested. There are people that show interest. And the fact that we have support from outlying fire departments has a big help along the way that we're going to have coverage. So the town of Austin and the board need to get together and figure out what to do. Like I said, I hope my time's wasted. I truly do, but I'm not going to leave people unprotected.
How long do you think it would take you to get a volunteer fire department up and running full strength?
It's going to be a year plus.
We've got till December 31st.
And you're correct. And I've talked to a couple other departments that are willing to offer assistance as far as coverage goes in the township.
I talked to, what departments, can I ask that? What departments I can talk to? I need, as a board member, I need to know that, so I know if I can reach out to these departments myself.
I've talked to Markle, I've talked to Chester, I've talked to Liberty. So, I've not talked to Bluffton yet, and I've not talked to Southwest.
So you talked to 2 Southern Wells fire departments that don't have enough people to come up here. It's going to take them at least half hour, 45 minutes if they did have people there,
Their
correct?
biggest asset is the training. To offer the training to help get guys, new candidates up to speed. It's going to take, a lot of these guys are going to be green. They're going to be new to it. There's minimum requirements to be a firefighter for an exterior attack. There's even more requirements for an interior attack. So for the first year, it's going to be a minimum of a year before anybody can do an interior attack on a township fire department. Correct. So that's a big downside. But what I would hope is we can get a mutual aid agreement with the town of Austin to help.
When did you mutual aid agreement has to be mutual aid?
And you're correct.
If they help you, you have to be able to help them. If you don't have any guys to go in, then that's not really mutual aid.
What certifications do you have?
Firefighter 1 and 2, hazmat. I hold 13 with the state of Indiana.
When was the last time you were on Austin Fire Department?
2016, I believe.
And where do you currently work at?
I work at pre-stress indicator.
Okay, so you work in Decatur, so during the day, you're not around to help out, correct?
Correct.
Now, pre-trust let you go during the day if you had a
Yes.
fire?
Yes, I can come and go as I need there.
Are you currently working with any fire departments right now?
No, I'm not.
When was the last time you had training with any of the firefighting?
Probably 2018.
So you're at least 6 years out of date on your training, correct?
Correct. Like I said, this is not a perfect fix. This is a solution if we can't come to an agreement.
Where do
This
you
is an
live,
option, I should
where
say.
do you live at? That's my next question.
1100 north, 100 east.
So what would my fire rating go from Jefferson Township? It's currently a 5. Would it go to a 10?
Yes.
So my insurance, my home insurance, just my insurance on my house will go up to $2,000. Will go up to $2,000. And I would like to get that $2,000 from somebody that besides me. And I'm sure everybody in this room, if their insurance goes up 500, how many people are in Jefferson Township? Maybe 3,000 homes, I don't know.
3,000, over 3,000.
Times 2,000, times 2,000 is $6 million. So our insurance rates could go up maybe, I don't know, $6 million. And we're worried about $122,000.
I don't think these are all single person homes. So,
It doesn't matter.
well, that's what your math was based on.
Well, I'm just throwing something out. If it's 1,000 homes, I don't know. That would still be $3 million, $2 million. We can't afford 100. In your budget, you said it was 114,000.
And Larry's was 122, and I based my budget off of the money that the state would leave us with the max levy and the little pieces that we can put in there. I based that budget off of not taking out of the general, because the general belongs to all the people in Jefferson Township. And this just belongs to the people outside of Ossian that live in Jefferson Township. And that's why I based my budget on that.
So your budget's 114,000, or we could pay 122 to the town of Ossian and not have to worry about where we're going to park the next fire truck.
And we offered to pay them that, Gene. We offered to do that. And it all boiled down to the county, and it all boiled down to them not being willing to sit down with us and take our input on a budget. They aren't willing. They say they are, but they aren't. And them presenting us a proposal and not accepting anything from us, says this is the way it's going to be, or you're terminated. I did, but I also said another one that night, and I told them that night what it would take, what I felt it would take. There's 2 more board members here, and it was a way for them to get their money. And it all boiled down to we get the bill directly from the vendor. That's the only thing. And I don't understand why it was a problem for them, because if it comes from the vendor, it gets them out of their accounting. If they bill the vendor, they got to give us a copy of the total bill. They got to give us a copy of what we owe, and they got to give us a copy of the original. And if it comes from the vendor, we got it. It's right there, and it's over. It just didn't make sense.
You would have a receipt one way or another. It
But
doesn't make any difference. You would know what you're.
Hold on, go ahead, Brian. You had your hand up. Let Brian speak.
Well, I just think an insurance perspective, I work for an insurance carrier, and so I think there is a gross misunderstanding of what the impact is going to be if we lose our protection class rating. And it's significant, whether Gene is closer or not, it's a big number. And I appreciate the effort to look at alternatives. And I think we should, based on the town's, the position that they've taken at this point. But I also think that we can't lose the war over this battle about receipts. And that ultimately, we know we're all better off if we have protection with the town for 2025. And we can take time to explore something else, but we may have to say, look, we don't agree with this, and you plug your nose and you sign the agreement so that we have time to make a plan if we need something different. And I know you don't like it, and I don't either. But I think the ramifications of having nothing, I mean, even if he's able to get something going, it is nothing close to what we have if we have an agreement. And so I think that given time, we need to look for alternatives. I have no issue doing that, but I don't really think it's I mean, as far as the budget, the money's, I mean, we can do what needs to be done. We looked at half of what they presented, and I think we're fine with that. So
I'm agreeing with you, but here, the deal we got, the problem we have is that this has gone on for over a year. And I mean, and Larry's right when he says it is not our job, it's his job. And we've waited on him to do something. I mean, we have, I mean, you guys can all fault us all you want for waiting this, but we have to wait this long. It's his job, and he's never presented. We have told him what we wanted time and time again. And if we sign this contract and go on, he's going to do the same thing. He's going to drag his feet. We're going to be in the same position a year from now.
Well,
I mean,
I think I understand that, okay? And so on October 17th, whether we did something before or not is really irrelevant. We are looking at December 31st. So we have to look at what we can do between now and then to make sure we have protection on the 1st.
Yes,
And
that's correct.
I believe there's support here to say, sign the agreement, and then we need to go through the channels to direct the trustee. We want to look at our options. And then we have time to do that, whether we do our own or I don't know, there's other options. I'm sure I'm not familiar with what those are. But I think we really underestimate the ability to fight fires in our township. And the ramifications of insurance are significant. It's guaranteed that the amount of levy that you're looking at here is nothing compared to what our citizens in the township are going to have to pay extra for their insurance coverage, some of whom may not be able to afford their insurance. So plug your nose, sign the agreement, and let's make a plan with time and our ability to make informed decisions on what comes next. That's it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Thank you, Brian. Thank
I
you.
read the fire agreement, and I'd like to ask Larry, why did you agree to pay half of the budget and not half of the expenses, not to exceed the budget? Because if they have extra money, it's gonna be left in Ossian and not the township.
No, it will be left in the volunteer fireman's budget.
And Ossian,
Yeah,
in Ossian,
yeah.
The volunteers budget,
exactly,
for the fire fund,
in their general fund.
the fire fund budget.
They said the general fund.
It won't be in the general fund, it'll be in the fire fund.
I've got their.
They pay everything out of the general.
Well, see, they pay different than what.
I know, because I used to audit their books. But the thing is, I don't understand why you agreed to pay half of the budget and not let the township keep what money is left over into theirs.
The money will be whatever, okay, we've got $122,000 budget. let's say we only spend $100,000.
Right.
That $22,000 will stay in the fire.
In Aussie,
No, the fire, it will stay in the fire fund in Jefferson Township for the volunteer fire department. It will not stay in Austin.
that's not what,
No,
that's not what the contract says.
Well, I have to look at it again, but the meaning of it is it stays with the fire.
I know the meaning of it, and that's what you're saying, and they said that at the meeting Monday night, but that's not what's in fire contract.
I would have to review that because I think you're wrong.
Okay,
I know what you're saying, Carolyn. It's not in there.
it's not in there.
It says that we will cover half the budget. It doesn't say we will cover
You're good.
the expenses up to that budgeted amount.
Exactly,
You're saying it's correct, that's correct, that can be correct.
and you're sure of that.
We just yes, I'm sure we could talk to
Uh,
the town council and have that correct.
In my conversations with the attorney, he had some issues with the contract. And I said, well, I thought you looked this contract over. He says, here's my email from Larry. This was what I was tasked with doing. And Larry just had him look at a couple parts that he had changed. And he said, I didn't go over this and say this is good, that's bad, nothing. He said, I didn't draft it. It was presented to me by Larry, and he told me to look at specific parts, and that's all I did. So there were some issues with
I
that.
didn't have him look at the rest of the contract because the board has been approving the rest of the contract for years and years and years. I just wanted him to review changes in the contract.
And what did he say about paying half the budget?
Tony didn't really look at it as close as what he told me later on. He said, Larry, I probably didn't look at it as close as what I should have. But once it was turned over to the town council's attorney, he reviewed it a whole lot closer.
So you
But-
right now say you can have it changed to the way
This-
it's money.
But
I can't say that because it's the town council's budget. Agreement. It's the town council, they are the one who would have to change.
See, it's the
But-
town
but-
council's agreement,
but-
it's not ours. We've got
our
nothing in it.
attorney had like 5 different points that he had a problem with, that he thought needed to be changed in there, in that agreement that they wanted us to sign. But see,
And why didn't you bring that up in the meeting?
because I told him I was working with the attorney to come up with a proposal, and that was part of coming up with it, and they said no.
We're not allowed to work on it before we can ability that.
Why didn't you have it before Monday night's meeting?
Larry, if I don't
It
work
comes
on
down
it, you
to-
aren't working on it.
It
What-
is
what's
the
up?
trustee's responsibility. It wasn't ours. Yes, we are taking action now because yes, we are at the end of the line here. But it's like everything. We tried earlier to cover ourselves earlier, back in April or whatever, to cover ourselves in case we didn't come to an agreement. And what happened to us? We got attacked at the meetings that we can't do that. We can't step outside. You firemen attacked us. And I mean, no, wait a minute. You did. You guys yelled at us. Did you not attack us for going to look?
Those were also township presidents. Every single
Did-
one.
Okay, but we were not attacked for trying to find us some solution.
Let me talk a minute, Dave. I did approach Preble, and I approached Preble because the township gave him an ultimatum and told us, you're the town.
Back in May, or back in April?
Yeah, they
Yes,
did.
They did.
They did.
Yes, he did.
Clear back in April.
He did.
And they said your fire protection is going to be terminated.
Yes.
And so the next logical step, if it's going to be terminated, is to look for some fire protection. And that's the only reason I did. They're the ones that said, this is the proposal. If you don't accept it, your fire agreement is going to be terminated. And that was clear back in April. And that's when we asked for meetings with the town and they refused to sit down with us. We tried to work
We
this out.
tried. We tried. And you can go back in our minutes and look.
To Preble, it was for $80,000.
My proposal, here's how I come up with my proposal.
No receipts.
My proposal was I took our $79,000 budget and our $54,000 payment that we're making on our engine, added them two together. I looked at the plat book 2/3 of the area was in Preble. From Highway 1 over was Preble, and a third this way was Uniondale. And I said, okay, I got $132,000 to work with. Would you guys consider the 2/3
It would have
amount?
all had to go in front of the
Let
board
me,
anyway.
yeah,
Go ahead, but it
I
would
was
have all
just
had to
trying
go
to
in
cover our
front of
fire, but we would have been getting rid of our equipment because them guys are used to working with a lot less money. They're providing fire protection for their townships over there for $40,000, $30,000. And here, and you look at the other townships in Wells County, what the townships are paying for fire protection compared to what we pay. So I said, I took what the money I had, divided it in 2/3, 1/3, said to Preble, and I had a meeting scheduled with Uniondale Markle. And I was planning, and the guy at Markle was planning that day, and he says, hey, I'm going to have to reschedule. And in the meantime, Preble had a meeting and said, no, we aren't going to do that because we have to work with Ossian. We've had a conversation with Ben. So when they didn't do that, the Markle guy said, well, there's no sense us meeting if they aren't going to do it. So we never even had a meeting. And that's the only reason. It wasn't to go around the Ossian Fire Department. We were provided an ultimatum again.
We provided
My
it.
question is about the money you're gonna provide to Preble and Markle.
Again, that would have had to all go in front of the board.
It's fine, but it was $80,000 for service with no receipts.
Right.
And it was the rest going to Markle.
Because
no
we,
receipts, and that seems to be the biggest sticking point with you.
And it's the same thing.
On this.
It's the exact.
but
And I just
I
wanna know
felt
why-
I was
I
with,
don't know why you give another
I
fire
felt-
department and another county on both sides, not even our county,
because
money with no receipts.
because I know them guys and I could see how they operated in the past. And they work with their people. This has went on for 20 years. It has. It has went on for 20 years between Ossian and the township. It's been going, it was on before I ever got on here. I heard the stories then. I've lived through them for, I don't know how long I've been on here, about 10 years or something like that. But it's been going on a long time. And a lot of it boils down to the township feels like they have no voice. We have no voice.
You wouldn't have any voice with Preble or Markle.
I think we would.
No, you wouldn't.
That's beside.
But that's
done,
beside the
though.
point.
It's beside the point. It's in the past.
Counties on each side and give them an option, or whatever, something you won't give the town of Austin.
Because the way they treat us, the way,
Township, and even the firefighters.
yeah,
that live
but
here.
why won't they accept a proposal? You know, for them to tell us this is it and we won't accept a proposal. I mean, what are we supposed to do?
The expenses need to be split in half.
We agreed to that. We agreed to that.
And you sign the contract.
We agreed to that. We've
already
we've
said there's
already
issues with
said there.
that contract
Yes.
from the attorney. Yeah,
How long is the contract?
this is only on 1 year. And
Hold on.
okay,
One follow-up. Are the concerns by the attorney substantive, you said 5 concerns, are they substantive enough that you would say, like, this is not a contract that could be signed? Or is it something that is minute enough that we could do this for a year, revisit it in January and February and start the process?
you know, the contract that he sent me to look at, and I'm not a tech guy, has a little window. And you click on that window and you can read his comments. But I'm a guy, I like a piece of paper that I can sit down and look at. And you can't print them off. And the reason you can't print them off is he cannot provide anything that my two counterparts can look at for the and so I
I can't imagine that it'd be so substantive that he wouldn't call you and say, holy crud, you can't sign this contract, like, this is.
He can't, he
Well,
can't.
Here's what he,
Here's what he said, here's what he said he was gonna
Well, if it
do.
was that bad, he would.
Here's what he said he was gonna do. He said, I'm gonna get a hold of the town's attorney and maybe we can work this out between us. And that's where it was left. And that's when I was hoping these guys would get a hold of them, give them their input, and we could come up with something, but the town said, no way. We aren't even gonna consider that. This is what it is. We've agreed, this is what, we're not even gonna take anything that you propose. You find out, he called it a circus. He says, you made this into a circus. Well,
One of the other things is, you mentioned one of the concerns being the township not having input on the budget. Is this also another thing that we could say, okay, we're down to the crunch time, let's sign this deal, let's see how it works, and if they are still not doing it, the public outcry, the public involvement right now, you don't think that they're gonna still stay paying attention to what's going on between the board and Larry?
it's like tonight. They try to pick a fight with you when you go there, like.
Everybody's picking a fight with everybody.
No.
Like, I mean, if we're honest, I think
I'm not picking, I'm really not picking a fight. I want to work an agreement out with them.
I have sat here and waited for a proposal, something different to vote on. I have sat here for a year, over a year now, because the town come to us a year ago over this ordeal. And I've sat here and waited for something for me to vote on for the citizens of Jefferson Township. I've sat here waiting on something else besides what he said it himself. Did he not say this contract is what the town proposed? It had nothing to do with the township whatsoever. We had no input. And we had no input.
And that's fair, but we're also in the middle of October, and like,
I understand what you.
Get it done, and then let's say January 1st, all this public involvement. You don't think the public's going to continue to go to town meetings, to town council meetings, continue to come to here to make sure everything gets taken care of and a process is followed? To me, I think I get why everyone's on high alert. I do. I understand it. I deal with this all the time. I just think we could calm a lot of issues and a lot of fears by moving on and saying, okay, January 1st, it's game on. Let's have a broad conversation with everybody.
I'm gonna say, can I say one thing? So we got an email response from our township attorney earlier today, about 4 o'clock, so these guys probably haven't had time to look at it. But what Tony's saying is he would like to clear up some language in the proposed agreement. He would like to do so, but however, he does not want to put the effort in if you will not approve the proposed agreement. So even if you don't want to approve it, he's not going to put the effort into changing it. He wants to know, hey, will you sign this proposed agreement right now? And then they can clear up the language and we can re-sign it at that point. That's what Tony's saying. So Tony has said his best thing from what I'm reading here is that we do sign that proposed agreement for 2025, just that 1 year, then we start working on a whole new agreement in 2026. That's what Tony, correct. Right.
I'm not comfortable.
There's minor tweaks. That's what Tony wants to do. And it's nothing serious. It's nothing that's not going to stop us from that agreement being fine for 2025. And then we can work on 2026 or starting our own fire department in the future.
I'm not comfortable signing that agreement for the reason Carolyn stated right there. It needs to be said in there.
That's a minor tweak. That's a minor tweak that Tony's saying.
But it needs to be tweaked before we sign.
We can.
Tony told me he was going to talk to the town attorney, and he said they were going to try to work something out that would make both parties happy. And if we can get that done by October 22nd, then we can have this continuance meeting, and then you guys can look at that and see if you feel that the agreement for this year is good enough to get through this year, and then 2026, Tony and the town attorney will work on what maybe a better agreement that you guys would like to see.
Can I ask another question too, Tim? It's Carolyn, right? So Carolyn's point of the not to exceed, what's the number that's been spent by the fire department in past years in that category? And what's the difference between that and the 122 or whatever that number is? Because even more so, to Gene's point, now we're not quarreling over 128,000. Now we're quarreling over 6,500 bucks. I'll send a hat around a meeting and get the 6,500 bucks if that's what we're.
Well, they've already agreed to pay the 63 or 5, whatever it is for manpower. So that's automatic. So take that 65 out of the one.
That's what I'm saying is
It's
that,
coming down to 127 or.
but not even that.
67 or.
So I think he.
It's the leftover money
Yes,
that
that's
the
what the
fire
whole thing's
department
over.
wouldn't,
Yes.
which I totally understand, and it should say that,
But-
like,
but
we
here-
should have that money back.
Here's part of the problem. And it's gonna go back a year ago, when they came to us and said they're gonna start paying firefighters to be in the firehouse. Dennis came, and we hadn't made our budget out yet. And I said, well, Dennis, I don't know what we can do till I see our budget. But if we are able to do something, he said, the town has covered the budget. We didn't know what we'd get from you guys. They have covered that budget. If we are able to do something, you need to talk to Ben and make sure whatever we put in there, he agrees to have that left. So this budget doesn't get inflated over the years. And he agreed to that. Well, they bought air packs and spent that $35,000 that was supposed to be left. And never spoke to us about it, that we're going to do this, which they should have. But that wasn't the biggest problem I had. Was he said this is a one-time deal. You know, they're good for 10 years. It's a one-time deal. But they left that money in the budget for the next year. So it inflated $35,000. And that's the stuff I was trying to prevent. And we had an agreement, and they act like it's nothing. They didn't care. You know, and that's the kind of stuff that is a problem.
In fact, the agreement would not allow us to spend $79,000. That's why I had to have the agreement amended to allow us to spend that $79,000. With the agreement that was in place, I was only going to be allowed to spend about $40,000.
But he spent it without consulting the board or asking our opinion on any of it. And we had no say so. And then when he found out he couldn't do it, and they had to write a check back, everybody out here has attacked us, the board, that we were responsible for. No, that we held up the money. No, we didn't. He couldn't legally do that. And we were never consulted about it. I mean, this goes on and on. I mean,
Wasn't that for hydrant rental?
that was for hydrant
That
rental.
has nothing to do with their.
That
Well,
doesn't-
but the hydrant rental one, yeah, I mean, we had no,
The air pack thing, I would have been okay if they would have come and talked to us.
yeah.
When we had that agreement, but I wasn't okay with that, but it happened. I could accept that. But the part I couldn't accept was when we had that agreement, it was to keep that budget from inflating, and they come out and said it's a one-time deal, and then that budget inflated $35,000. They spent that same amount and added to it the next year. And that's
But now they're fully aware of the situation that's going on.
no.
And you guys are better. No, I'm saying moving forward, they
Well,
know that people are ticked off. You know that people are ticked off. If they're not working with you in the future on problems like that, you looking into what the other options are now you've got a longer runway to figure this stuff out.
we've got a longer runway, but
We're talking 1
just
year.
keeps going on and on and on like this. And
But isn't the assessed value more than the town?
Town's assessed value is about 10 million more than what Jefferson Township, assessed value is higher than us.
So didn't Ben give you a study of the run volumes for over a 5-year period and they were equal? So why don't you feel that we shouldn't pay for our half
Yes.
of everything?
I provided them with a way to get the money they wanted. And they would not accept that way. And we have not had a voice. We've not had a voice.
We have not.
You have had a voice.
No, we have not, Larry.
Is there another way to have that voice?
Well, that's what one of my points I sat down with the attorney and said, we have not had a voice. We need to have a voice. And I said, and you remember, there's 3 board members here and there's 5 town board members. And if we're going to support this 50-50, we need half of the voice, not 3 to 5. So it's up to him to figure that out. But
I don't even mean that. I mean a slightly more informal if it has to be, but create a committee together and it's 2 members from each board and Larry and the attorney, or however it is, you sit down and start that conversation again come January after we say, let's get this contract done. We've got a year to figure this all out. Let's start the conversation. There's a lot more people in the community than just even in Jefferson Township. Are the other townships having this issue? Are we having this in other counties in the state of Indiana? Bring up George.
Well, part of it is all these fire departments are running for cover, and they're running for cover between fire districts and fire territories. And they come out and said, our next purchase needs to be a ladder truck, and we're probably going to be going to fire territory. They already let their hand out, and
I mean, whether we like it or not, that's in all of Indiana. I mean, that's
but the needs and wants thing is what.
And I'm not disagreeing with you on that either, because you ask a surgeon, what's the best course of action? They're going to say surgery.
Like a farmer, I mean, you make some money and you buy a new tool. Well, everybody likes new tools, but we're buying tools with the taxpayers' money. We're not buying tools with our.
Let them go up a little bit. Pay for it. We're not trying.
Well, you know what a ladder truck costs?
Yes.
There's a guy in the back row will probably tell you.
Cheaper insurance for everybody.
I don't think that'll help you on your insurance. Go ahead, Brian.
I just want to add on a bit. Again, you know my opinion on what I believe we should do, but I think you also need to consider fires kill people. Right. And if we do not have good service because we don't have time to get good service, we are risking life. And no one in here wants that. Okay. So again.
Well, I'm not ready to sign the fire agreement tonight because I think there's some things in there that need change from the attorney. I know he said it didn't, but Carolyn has a very good point that it needs to be in there. And
so what if Tony's your and meet with the town's attorney and just go to, okay, we're going to give you 6 months. Here's all the bills. You pay half of them. And they give you all the receipts. And then the next month or the next 6 months, it does that. And that settles 25. And then, like everybody's saying, work on next year's project. But I agree with about everybody else that let's just get this going and get it out of the way and move on to next year.
We can do that if the board would approve this Form 4 that they have already agreed to pay $276,000 for the next year's budget. If they would sign this form tonight and allow, I can get with Tony talked like he and the town attorney are going to get together real quick. And if they can have that agreement drawn up by October 22nd, that we would all take a look at and see if we can approve of that agreement, then we're done for this year. And then next year we'll move on and we'll do whatever's right for next year.
Is that change enough to get you to if that change happens, that's enough to get you to sign it for 1 year to try to get
Uh,
it on the table?
I would like to talk to Justin and see where he's at and that. Not, and I'm with Justin. It's gonna be hard to do where he's at with the other, departments and that. And I would like to stay here, but like I say, it's went on for 20 years. I mean, it's just 1 year after another. And the other night was just the way it goes.
Where are you gonna put this fire station? You think 5 guys is gonna do it? You gotta be joking.
So what we need to do,
Ready now.
so, hey, let me stop. So I think what we need to do now is we need to have, basically, make it to the continuous meeting. We'll stop talking tonight. Let Tony do his tweaks to the contract. That way we can look at it Tuesday, the 22nd. We continue talking. We can have time to look at it. That'll give Tim time to talk to his guy. Hopefully, if Tony can draw it up before Tuesday, so we can have it, say, Sunday or a couple days ahead of time, so we can look at it, talk to people on it. I think that's the direction we need to go, is we just need to stop this meeting for tonight. Let's re-adjourn on Tuesday. That gives us time to talk, get with Tony to get those tweaks made in it, and then we can represent that proposal to Austin with those tweaks in there.
Tony felt from talking to the town attorney that I won't guarantee that he can have that by the 22nd. We can move it back a few more days. Tony said it's gonna be the 23rd, right before I can have it done. Then we can have a meeting on, say, the 23rd. Tony can have it done by then. And that gives the board an opportunity to review what Jefferson Township's attorney, who represents us, and the township, or then the Austin attorney. Tony said he thought they could work this out.
What assurance do we have that the town is gonna work with us? What assurance do we have? I mean,
Nobody here.
You guys have not, for 20 years, you have paid approximately a third of the fire fund budget. That's the problem that we're trying to end right now. We want you to pay 50% of the budget.
and I went over earlier in the meeting why that was. It was the max levy. And I went over that we had bought equipment to equal things out. We had bought equipment because it was outside of that max levy. And you keep badgering the township, and you're supposed to be representing us.
I represent Jefferson Township, all of Jefferson Township.
Larry, he's right. When we were trustees, we had a top levy. We could not go above that. So the cume, most of the money went into the cume fire so that we could buy the trucks. The township usually had the most trucks. Town had one.
It's different now.
It is different now, but it's still, you cannot say it's been going on for 20 years. It hasn't.
It has been, you can go back and look at the budget for the last,
I know.
since 2009.
Cost
The town of Austin has paid $763,000 more dollars.
But you don't understand.
Here we go.
Yeah, see, I mean,
Here we go.
here we go.
And I'm not sure any of this is helpful, to be clear. I mean, I get that it's frustrating, but it's not helpful to just keep relitigating all that.
This year taken care of, and then start dealing with 2026.
And Tim, you're right, you have no assurance that the town's gonna do this, but at mid-October of 2024, we don't have much of a choice but to try to push this through, get the best deal that we can, and then start back in January and have the lawyers look at everything through a fine-tooth comb and say, this is the best option for the township.
Arlene, go ahead.
If my memory serves me correct, I had said something about an amendment to that firefighting thing. And it was said, nope, we signed it, that's the way it's gonna be.
That was, they said,
Now-
you've seen our
That
proposal?
was awesome.
Yeah, right.
Now let me finish.
Okay.
So now we're talking about two different attorneys getting together, hopefully they can do it. But if we're going to make the amendments to this firefighting thing, and it might be the wrong deal, I guess, because it's not actually the town, I may be off. Why couldn't there be something in there pertaining to the fact that of working, having a say? I'm not saying that.
Well, and that's what I
I
asked
mean, and putting it through the attorney into the actual whatever documents that says the town and the Jefferson have to be able to have a say, etc. And I'm sorry, I didn't say that very well.
Well, yeah, we have to have an equal amount of input on the budget since we're paying for half of it. And I keep saying, we offered them a way for pay for half that, and they flat out refused. We provided them an avenue to get what they needed, but nope, it's our way, and that's the way it's went. It's went this way several years.
Again, I don't have any issue. I understand that. Okay, but we have to go forward.
Yeah.
So the forward plan is, we don't like what they're doing, then we change what they're doing in a reasonable time frame that keeps protection for us good protection for us.
But see,
If they get what they want this year, what is their motivation to negotiate next year?
I'm we are not negotiating next year. We're going to say, we're going to leave, but I'd rather leave with 12 months than 2.5.
Right.
So then let's go month by month. We'll pay the town month by month.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while to put something together. Okay, we agree with that.
So I guess, what are you guys worried the town's gonna do? You worried that they're gonna jack the budget up?
What we don't.
Because they have to jack up the town budget the same. So they would have to increase all their taxes. It's not like they can say, township, you give us so much more, the burden on the township. They have to do,
Well,
it's 50,
one, we're still fighting the max levy. It's 105. We're still fighting that with 122. We're still fighting that max levy. That's one thing. The other thing is these ultimatums. I mean, how do you deal with that? It's like being a bully at the school playground. You know?
I can tell you what I would do. You sign the deal, you get to January, and you say, we're going to create a committee. It's 2 people on both sides, and if you don't show up, we're going to do our proposal, or we're working on our way to move out and do our own thing.
We've had no cooperation. I mean, it's been us two. I mean, sir, look at it. Look at tonight. It's been us two. We've had no cooperation either way with getting us any. It's all what the town wants, and we've had no cooperation. If we had a little cooperation, we would work. We've tried. I mean, we've made an attempt to work this out. We've made an attempt for. I mean, I'm not out here to get anybody's taxes any higher than what they are. I don't want my taxes to go up. And that's what I've heard from the people. But somewhere it's got to end. I mean, I understand nobody likes anything to end, but I mean, there comes a point when how much more do you keep taking of this? I mean, how much more do we, I mean, you're going to guarantee he's going to cooperate with us at the first of the year? I mean, we're going to sign this, and then they're going to all look at us and say, well, we got what we wanted. Screw you guys. I mean, where does it end?
Maybe, but you also have, and I can't remember the lady's name in the back that said, shame on us for not being as involved. And I don't think that's changing. You're going to have from both Jefferson Township and Ossian residents.
When we asked to sit down in April, when they give us the first notice and give us the ultimatum, we asked to have a meeting. They won't even meet.
How do you work with it? I mean,
you let them know that you're looking at other opportunities that may not involve their fire department, and then you say, let's have a conversation.
All right, Richard.
Right.
Yep.
Question for Larry. Larry, is there a way legally that between the town and the township, we could set up a committee or a panel and work on this from the outside to provide you guys with an answer. Because there's too many personalities that are conflicting. And until we get those personalities out of there, nothing is going to get solved. Nothing.
I think
So if we can get,
Well, can I
Jim
answer
and
that?
if Jim and I and the two lawyers, and a representative from the town council could get together, I think we can work this out.
But Richard, Larry did propose that to the town back in April. He said, I propose we form a committee and sit down and meet. And Barclay said, no, we aren't meeting. He come back to him and said, no, we aren't meeting. And he brought that back to the board.
It's in our minutes. You can go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Your answer, though. Your answer is we just need to go elsewhere.
yes, and
But
that's,
we don't have time to.
I understand where you're,
Let's
give the fire chief, let's give him a chance.
I'm not.
Let's,
I mean,
here, let's,
I know that.
let's,
You don't have the runway. He said it very plainly.
I understand what you're saying. I understand. I understand. I understand. We can see what the attorneys work out, but we also, I feel we need to see what he can do. He might be able to get us more coverage from somewhere else. I don't know. I mean, this is all new. I mean, I'm just,
And even then, I think you're still risking your protected class.
I understand. I understand. I understand.
can
understand.
I,
Go ahead.
guy in the back row there, I'd
Go.
like to hear from him.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm an outsider. If you wish me not to speak,
No, you speak.
I'm glad to.
No.
Well, I know a little of your history and you've been through this.
I have indeed. I chaired a public safety committee in Bluffton. We spent a lot of hours. The group did not, the council did not accept our recommendation, but we learned a lot. First thing I urge you to do is to not say you're going to leave until you know the cost. Until you've tried to recruit firefighters, I think you're going to underestimate the cost a lot. And when you get a good one, they're going to steal. The ability to find competent firefighters today with the level of training that's required is extremely expensive, both to get the person, but it becomes more expensive to keep them. So I urge you to not go into this saying, here's what we're going to do. The other thing that has struck me tonight as I listened is that, and I understand your desire to pay bills directly. I understand that. But if I were on the other side, I would also understand that our liability for firefighter safety and equipment maintenance is such that if you're going to be responsible for it, you want to be the one paying the bill so that you know it's paid, so that you don't get something going and have another party say, we don't agree to that, we're not going to pay. Now, to ask for a copy of every receipt paid makes an awful lot of sense to me, so that you could build your history, you could build your case, and to look at things like what are the salary costs for a firefighter, what are the retirement costs, what are the insurance costs, so you could begin to cost this out, because you're going to have to compete with those who would steal your good people. I wish you well with finding volunteers that can respond, but I must tell you, we were totally unsuccessful in that with a whole bunch of industry and businesses in the Bluffton community. Maybe you're better at that than we could be, but we examined that a lot and had to add people. The standard that sticks in my head, and it's one that we did move on,
is that the standard is that before firemen should go into a burning fire, a building, you send 2 in, and you're to have 2 standing by to go get them. And I'm not an expert on fire protection. But what I'm trying to say is that the challenge of finding adequate people is so severe that I urge you to take care in plotting a course until you know the cost. And it's huge. And thank you for listening. I don't mean to impose, but I.
I have a question for him.
Go ahead.
In being here tonight and hearing all the controversy back and forth, the fact, and I have witnessed myself just in a short time, the no's that have come. How would you address the fact that township is uncomfortable now with just signing on the line with no agreement that they are from the town of Austin going to work? How would you suggest handling that, like a liaison, like to get?
I would urge you to look for a person skilled in mediation to sit down, because the personalities that are involved here, if you all went to a picnic and you didn't have these issues, I think you get along pretty well. But you have the issues, and you can't hide that, and you have strong feelings. You're strong-willed people. I can't observe a weak person in this leadership group, which means you're not going to compromise your thoughts easily without understanding, and you probably need someone in that mediation role that the town would also accept. And as far as what you should do immediately, I think it's best I not comment on that, because I don't live here. And so I'm not trying to impose anything.
Can I ask Larry to tell the attorney to have something in that contract that says we are going to sit down after the first of the year and do something before we sign that?
All due respect, you can tell Larry anything you want. He can tell the attorney anything he wants, but unless it's agreed to by both sides, it's not worth too much.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to suggest is that if you get to that point through mediation, where there's a mutual opportunity to speak in a non-polarized environment, and you can't do this, you can't have that discussion in a public session right now. The day will come when I think you can. But right now, I came tonight just to say, I hope it's not as harsh as it sounds. I'm going to go home thinking, yeah, it probably is. And you're good people. You have a great community, and you all want the best, I'm sure. But if anything you do costs someone's life, you won't sleep. And I just hope you find a way to come together, to find a discussion in a non-polarized way and find your way through this. You have to.
Go ahead.
Would you be willing to be the mediator?
I didn't come applying for a job.
Well, it wouldn't be a paid job.
That was my question, with the budget and everything, one way or the other. I think the mediator thing is a great deal. And actually, when I talked to them, I never get the letters right, that GL, whatever it is. When I talked to them, they pretty much said that somewhere along the line, your people are going to have to figure out how to work this out together. So do we have money anywhere now in that budget that if we have to pay a mediator, or can we pass the hat or something like that to make it happen? I think it's a very, very good idea. Because I can see
The budget
understand.
the budget we adopted tonight there's enough money in years past that we could bring it in and we could get up to the 122,000 they're wanting. If we can come up to some kind of agreement that we're gonna sit down and work this out after the first of the year, and we'll have fire protection for next year. But we've never been able to sit down because we've asked and they won't.
I
They
think
won't.
it's fair to say that there's probably maybe more people here from each side tonight than there has been in the past. So I think trusting that the good people of Wells County, Jefferson Township will help hold both sides to working together. And if we can get the attorneys to do it, and it's probably gonna sound really crazy, but at this point in time, now we gotta rely back on our faith in our God. Because that's the only reason we're all here anyways, by the grace and the mercy of God. So everybody's gonna have to, I know it's been difficult, but everybody, both sides, AJ, Dave, Tim, and those 5 members that aren't here that have spoken the way they have in the meetings, because I've heard it, they all know what they've said. Larry knows what they've said. It's time that everybody try to work it out, and if we need to get that stuff in the minutes or whatever we need to do to fix it, and God willing, we can at least deal with it for 1 year. And that'll give us time. And now I think the cards are on the table. The board knows that we gotta have working together. And for whatever it's worth, then we have somebody that's interested. We've got months. It's gonna take work, but we got months instead of days.
It's on Larry, I mean,
Well, we gotta get a contract that's rewrote from the attorney.
yes,
Before we can sign anything, we've got to get some things updated in that. And
That's what I'm including.
yeah, and then we can still sign a contract, the 22nd or whenever you're continuing this meeting to. It can still be signed in. There's enough money in here with what we adopted tonight. We can bring money in from years past and cover the budget if we have to, if we can come up with something that we can agree on.
I mean, it has to go to, the town has to agree to it, or, it has to go to the, yes, that has to, and it has to go like we've discussed it here.
We don't have to understand, if these 2 lawyers get together and they come up with what they feel is the best thing, we've got to take a very good look at it and put some of our pride aside and take what they're saying.
I'm willing to look at it, but I'm not gonna agree to sign something before I see it.
Willing
Yeah.
to meet you and me and a member of the town council and maybe both lawyers?
Yeah, I'll sit down, but as long as it's okay with these 2 board members. This is a board. I'm not even the president. I'm the lowest member on here. But I have been on this board. I ran this last time because everybody was leaving. And I thought there needed to be some continuity about how things worked. And it's not worked out well.
David, would you like to let Tim represent you guys? Now, this is just, you guys still get to vote on the agreement. It's not set in stone, but it's an agreement that everybody's agreed upon, and then you guys still get to vote on it.
We have to do something. That's
Okay.
as simple as that. We can't be doing nothing.
Let me see if I can set up a meeting as I just proposed, and I'll let you know as soon as I've got signed. It's all of the lawyer's schedule. I don't know what their schedules are. And if we have to have this meeting later than the 22nd, we'll push it off until we're ready.
But we gotta have it by the end of, we've adopted the budget tonight. We've adopted it. Now, we haven't settled on our tax rate.
You adopted a budget. You haven't adopted the budget that's been sent to the state.
Well, you can't send an adopted budget before a board signs it.
I know that, but
That's why he's gotta resend it down to the state again,
Well, he can resend it.
and then we have to have another meeting to adopt the
Right.
budget. We all.
Well, we gotta have a continued meeting.
Right. So you adjusted, so at this point, I'm calling the meeting to end right now, and then we'll convene at the earliest, the 22nd. If it needs to be changed, we'll have to talk about when we can do that, so.
I'll agree only if all the concerns that we have brought up are brought up to the town and we get an answer from the town.
Tim will be at that.
Correct.
Make sure Tim brings up what you guys want to talk about. I threw a paper hat on this print.
Does anybody else got any questions or comments?
Thank you all coming. I really appreciate, we've never had this much input before. I mean, we're continuing to get more input, and you guys brought up a lot of good ideas tonight. I think you've made us see where we need to work together a little bit more. I appreciate that.
I made the
He
motion.
made- I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.